Sale to the media. I know this is a retro from a couple years ago. I didn't want to bring out. He did get a new one. We gave the guy some gear. So they're happy. Okay, fire away. What do we got for Thursday? I'm sure we get some good stuff.
Hey, Coach. So plenty of reports are suggesting that there's going to be a Tiger at the game on Saturday. Would you care to comment on that?
I am a huge Tiger fan.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the one question we agreed upon. Appreciate it.
Go Tigers.
Any update on Chris, not Chris, CJ Daniels and how he's doing?
Probable. Yeah, he practiced today. Probable. Yep.
You guys have played one big night game already this season. What can you guys take away from that experience going into tomorrow?
Don't play like we did in the second half of A&M. Certainly, for us, it's been about the consistency of our play. We clearly know, our identity in terms of how we need to play. Taking care of the football, being good against the rush, being balanced on offense. We know what those winning ingredients are, whether it's nighttime or daytime. It's really been about doubling down on that in our process and making sure that our guys clearly understand that focus needs to show itself when it's time to perform. And we've done it at times for a few quarters. Sometimes we started slow and had to play great in the second half. Sometimes we played well in the first half and not so much in the second half. This has got to be 4 quarters of consistent play. And if we do that, we're going to put ourselves in a great position to have the outcomes that we want. But that is the challenge in front of us.
How has Chris Hilton looked this week, and do you expect like a significant jump from him in his second week after all that rust?
I think it's hard to say significant. Will he play more snaps and get more of an opportunity to impact the game? Yes, but I think it's unfair to put a guy in a position of significance after nearly 7-8 weeks, 2 months off. He's worked really hard. I felt him earlier in the week pressing a little bit, wanting to be, doing a little bit too much. And I told him, I said, listen, just let this game come to you, because when it does, he will have a significant impact. So I think it's just timing. It'll happen when it happens, but I think we're putting a little bit too much on him to have that significant impact in the game. He will play, and we expect him to help us win.
Hey, Coach, this Saturday you have the opportunity to become the first head coach to beat Alabama twice in a row in Tiger Stadium. What do you think this would be for your legacy here at LSU with the fans and also with the football program?
Hadn't thought about it for 1 second. All I've thought about really is preparing this football team against a really good Alabama team. Those kinds of thoughts for me in my career have always been things that I'll consider when my career is over. My career is just starting here, and we'll consider those things down the road. This is really about preparing our team and certainly knowing the competition is going to be one where we're going to have to play really well for 4 quarters.
Brian, I wanted to ask you about discipline with your secondary guys as it pertains to defending a running quarterback. I guess where do you guys maybe start with trying to make sure that their eyes are in the right place and that they're also still playing instinctually?
Yeah, and I think certainly part of the whole defensive scheme is, when the play breaks down or Milrow gets outside the pocket, you got to lock on, right? There are no zones anymore. You got to find a guy that's in your area, and you got to lock down. But I think it starts with a disciplined pass rush. It starts with lanes. It starts with contain. And so I think it starts up front, and it works its way back. So all these levels of defense, defensive line, linebackers, everybody, all 11 have to be part of this. And I think it really, for us, where we broke down last year was in lanes and pass rush lanes. We worked really hard on that, and as well as making sure that we don't lose anybody on the back end.
It was obviously a rough Texas A&M game for the field goal team. Just curious how you've seen them respond these last couple of weeks, and just kind of how much of an emphasis special teams has been, I guess, in practice these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we can look at it as, is that who we are, or is that an anomaly? And based upon the number of snaps that they have where they have been so good, we took it as an anomaly, but that doesn't erase the fact that we didn't execute when we needed to. So we looked at everything from communication to the operation, who was operating, how we were operating, all of those things, and examined it closely and went back to work. And we've had a really good week, and our expectations are that we're going to be back to the consistent operations that we've had in the past.
I know earlier this week you talked about, you were asked about this being an elimination game in the playoffs. I just wanted to get your thoughts of just how you kind of view this game, because in the past, before the college football playoff era, a 2-loss LSU team and a 2-loss Alabama team wouldn't necessarily garner the same type of attention that it has now, with game day here and how big or what stakes are like. I kind of want to just get your thoughts on just the context of the game in this day and age now.
Well, I mean, I think, you're talking about a team in LSU that has one loss in the conference and is, whether you use the tiebreakers or not right now, but is tied for first, right? So you've got a team that's tied for first in the SEC, regardless of what the tiebreakers look like at this point. And then you have one team that has a second loss. So I still think the implications are a little bit different this year because of where the teams are. Because if you get into the SEC championship game, you got a chance, obviously, to get one of those spots. So again, the implications are 12 changes the way you look at everything. Every game becomes more important in the regular season in November. That's why there's so many teams that are still feeling as though this is an elimination game or this is a big game. If this is an elimination game, Ole Miss and Georgia could be an elimination game. Every SEC game could be considered an elimination game. Or if you're Ole Miss, you're looking at it, we're getting back in it, right? So I think that's what 12 teams brings to the mix, is that it keeps everybody's perspective on the regular season longer into November. Is it a Red Sox question about?
No.
Okay.
I wish, though.
Well, you had this hoodie on, so
That's
I
true. That's
thought
true.
maybe.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So with the running game, you guys have been particularly strong with running the ball on the left-handed side of the offense, but without Garrett at left guard, how does that change the running game, if at all?
Well, I think regardless, our focus, as I've said probably 100 times now in terms of my public appearances, we have to be better in the running game. And by being in the running game, you can't just say, well, we've got Garrett out, we can't run the ball. So whether it's left or right, we have to be more effective. So being more intentional in the running game is more reps, more work, more time in practice. just an overall commitment to it. And regardless of who the players are, an expectation that all five plus the tight ends, the receivers, the quarterbacks, and everybody's committed to running the football regardless of who's in there. And that's the reality of it, because there's going to be guys coming in and out of the lineup, and we can't say, well, Will's out, we can't run the ball. Garrett's out, we can't run the ball, you know. So that's kind of how we've gone about it, you know, this past week.